when I get back.
Now I'm recording.
Task 2 is literally just clicking on the NFS data store and then clicking the summary tab.
Yeah. So 2 and 3 looks like expand, remove. 4 is expand and remove.
Yeah, it's not real difficult. So I'm going to record from here on. So if you're going to, also anybody that was absent today can pick up lab 13 and they can see these steps that we're supposed to be doing on lab 13, the changes to them as they go along. So it's definitely past break time. Who's still working on task 1? So I've got a couple people.
I know my worker, James. He hasn't even done anything. I don't know if he's here or not.
Yep, he's here.
Yeah, I haven't. Because when I did it on the second one, there was still both of those lumens, or whatever you call those. His was still there, so.
I think McGuire's halfway there. He's got his first one.
Okay. So yeah, complete task 1. I'm going to look at task 2 while y'all are finishing up task 1. There's not really anything on task 2. That's all you're doing in task 2. You're just expanding that first one you created. You can do task 2. It's real easy. Task 3 is super easy too. There we go, fixed it. Fixed task 5. So that is your lab 13 instructions that you can use for which lunge you're using and all of the changes that you need to know to complete lab 13 and deal with storage. Storage is not that hard to deal with. All these steps are pretty easy. If you need to do it more than once, you've got those 2 lunges to continue to play with. I just, when you're done with 13, task 5 needs to be done. That the data stores that you created need to be deleted. I don't need them to stay on there for fall semester. If they're already allocated, they won't have lunges to play with in the fall. And I can pause recording because that's the bulk of lab 13. For lab purposes, if you already deleted it, did your partner see you do it? She's coming. You could recreate it real quick and show me that you got a data store at 40 gig in size. What you doing, Sean?
Let me show you something that I'm sure you're probably already aware of. It's still in here. The old Windows 3.1 selection box is still in here.
Oh, yeah, that is Windows 3.1.
Did you see the one where I had shared video?
It's still in there and it's still horrible.
Let me see. So hold on, Jared. I see it in your recent task.
Yeah, just look at the recent tasks. They're still in there.
You're good. Yes, you got yours done?
Do you want to check mine before I hit delete?
Yes. Okay, you're good. And Paul, you're good. Yep. Riley, yep, your shows is 40. Okay, you're good. That's what I was wanting to see is basically the size, the capacity.
First good, but I'm checking out.
Okay.
This is select general.
So what's your, where are you at? What step are you on?
For task force, C. See the general.
Yeah, you're supposed to be clicked on your data store. Now you see general. Yeah. ODBC dialog box is quite old, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if they've, well, it doesn't look like they've recoded it since Windows 3.1.
Nope.
It still connects to databases and installs new drivers to connect to new databases and works.
It still uses the old crappy selection box. Holy suck.
I've used a, was that ODBC 32 or 64?
It was 32. It might be the same. Let me see if it's on sign in 64.
Because I don't know that I've not been running 32-bit
It's the
databases.
same in 64.
Okay. Okay, cool. Interesting. Like, I don't think I've used no DVC 32 connection. We did that in database class. We have enough time, we could try to use some Python and make a connection and see if we can use some Python commands to connect and retrieve database information. I have to set up, download the driver, ODBC driver for that Postgres database. Yes. No, I'm just gonna fail you. Give you a 0 on your labs. Okay, that's good.
You can retroactively go back and build classes.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get the at the end of the semester, the labs part 2. I'll make sure I give a 0 for Alex
Put negative points on it
to take away his labs part 1 that he got credit for.
Yeah, I do love how the grading system works though sometimes. Beginning of the semester, I have 1,600% in my computer applications.
Let's see. Click on. Sure, it's not have a general tab. That's weird. Is there a... Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Okay, you're good.
He was supposed to delete the other one, right?
Who?
Paul.
Yes, he. Still remoted in. Is it 40 gig in size?
No, that one's one of the. That's 20.
He may not have finished. He may come, since he didn't log out, he may come back after whatever he's having to do. I don't know. We'll just let him take care of it. Let's see if I can. Let's drag it up a little bit. So, wait, you're still creating? Okay, yeah, finish that and then let me see it. Where do you, okay. Remove, okay. Seeing both of y'all's. Aaron's. Aaron is created. Okay. This was done. Brian was done. Joshua Maines was done. So someone watching here. 40 gig. William Wortham's done. His. I think I've seen Talon. You got yours at 40 gig yet?
Here's the, I don't know, because I did it. I didn't touch anything and I had both of them as 20 gigs. So I don't know why it's not.
Oh, okay, so you're not, you've gotten, it looks like you're at task 3 or task 2. You've gotten down to task 2. You haven't done task 3, 4, or 5 yet. So you need to do that task 3 and task 4. And then let me know when you're at the bottom of task 4.
Just expand your first data store you created to 20 gigabytes max. Okay.
What happened to Matthew York? Oh, he's on computer 6. Okay. That's what happened to him. Okay, he got his done and removed. Yeah, I see where you removed it. You're good. Point. What? What step? What step are you doing? If you're expanding the capacity, go back. Let me see your data store. I think you may have hit cancel there. It looks like you created it at 20 gig instead of 17 gig. You're supposed to be clicking on your first one. If you're at task 2, or high flow up there. Yeah, that one. That's the one you're supposed to be working on. And then that one has space that you can grow. So y'all are going through. Hopefully this isn't fairly simple lab once you've actually done it.
When I right click, which one? What am I supposed to press? When I right click?
What now? Come on, wait.
Am I just supposed to click the increase right here?
So have you already increased it?
That's the thing, as I had it increased to 20 gigabytes, but now when I right click or when I click on increase, if this is the right screen, I don't know.
Did you originally create it at 17 gig instead of 20 and then click increase and increase it to 20?
This was the first one. It did it. It did it. It accepted it. So
So when you created the first one, if you did not shrink it down to 17 gig, you need to delete it and recreate it at 17 gig and then increase capacity. Because if you already use the maximum capacity, you can't do the increase.
that's what I did wrong. As I was doing VMFS instead of NFS.
It's supposed to be VMFS.
The first one was supposed to be NFS, right? And then the second one was
No.
supposed to be.
No, go back. It's supposed to be VMFS, but you're supposed to create it at 17 gig, not 20 gig.
Okay,
created
well,
it
I'm just
using
going
the
off
whole
of what the
base.
lab says for the first one.
The first one says decrease the size by 3 gigabytes when you create it. And you didn't do that. You kept it at 20 gig.
What happened? I had
Be using your lower numbered one, the 7. And then
Well,
you gotta
here's
give
the
it the,
thing. I just
you
had
didn't name
both
it.
of those.
Go back, you didn't name it.
Oh yeah. Good call. I didn't even delete the second one that I made, but it deleted it automatically. I don't know what happened there.
Does it say 5?
It says no, it didn't really specify. Hold on, I'm looking. Okay, okay, I was looking at the wrong. That's what was messing me up, as I was looking at the wrong page. So it is VMS. It is the 6th one. Like next.
It says decrease it by 3 gig.
Except use free space, 3 gigs, expanded as store from the partition configuration. Drop down the menu, click next.
Yes.
that's only, okay, let it go. Just wanna go to data storage, should,
Oh, and you said you're on task 4. Step what?
I'm making sure that, I just got done doing the first one. See,
This one here?
what am I doing wrong? What the frick?
Okay, what about it?
This is starting to get on my nerves. I just did it, and then I increased
So
it.
you're selecting your second one. Is, let me look and see what you've got going on here. So you've got Heifel and Heifel second. Let me look here. It looks like that you did not do, you've not done task 3. You got to do task 3. That's why you're messing up on task 4.
Because I have to, okay. This is
So if you deleted Talon's, you didn't delete yours. That's how we'll figure out how yours disappeared, Talon. James
James,
deleted
quit
yours.
touching my stuff, dude. Okay.
Yeah, he deleted Talon second instead of Heifel second on task 3.
And so I'm supposed to delete the data store.
So you'll have to recreate your Talon second or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Well, you don't really have to. You had to delete it. So
And then, okay. And storage.
okay, we're coming up here to another break time. So y'all can take a break while we're finishing up this lab 13. I'm going to take a short walk. I'll be back probably about 5 minutes, but we'll break until 10.
Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh. I'm just a poor boy. No sympathy, 'cause I'm easy come, easy go. Little high, little low.
Right. What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you playing a game or something? Oh. Okay. That's what I was asking. What are you doing? Gaming or dancing?
So apparently Antarctica is breaking up all over the place.
Antarctica?
Obviously, up in big New York City broke off.
Yeah, it happens every year.
That big.
Yeah, it does.
I've never seen that big.
They've had stuff break off like the size of Rhode Island that they always, every year, some breaking off the size of some small state or some small chunk or something. This is their top summertime. Well, we're starting to, yeah. This is the end of their of the melt season down there. It'll start to turn back here in a couple more weeks. About a month, they'll start freezing back up. But yeah, it's nothing new. Okay, you said you think you got that. So click on summary. Let's see. Okay. Yep. That's what I want to see with the 40 gig size. And then the last part is you're just deleting it.
I just wanted you to verify that everything is good. Both of my things say 19 gigabytes or roughly around closer to 20 gigabytes.
Yep. So now you're needing to do task 3 and 4. Paid my last water bill to Mountaintop Water Company. I think I'll have another electric bill come. That'll be the last one. for the Heber Springs branch of First Electric. I still continuously on the Jacksonville branch. I use their electric. No,
David,
Is it wanting both LUNs on the first VMFS?
what now?
The way it sounds to me, I increase it and then I select the one that for the second VMFS, I use that LUN to increase it to
Yep.
make it. Isn't that,
Yep, you deleted it, which freed it up, which now allows you to add it to the first one.
why couldn't I just do that to begin with?
It wasn't deleted, so
Well, I'm just saying it was a waste of time for me to create both of them, delete one, and then just increase
now it's
it.
practice for you to know how to do all of it. Different from expanding space to adding an extent.
I just wanted, on week 8, it says chapters 9 and 10, but it doesn't say anything about the self-test question to the chapter. This is chapter 9.
Yeah, that's all it's due.
We know if we're supposed to do a self-test in 10 or
What's week 9 say?
chapter 11. Week 8, there's a place to submit the self-test for 9, but there's nothing for 10.
Yeah, I don't think I'm taking, I'll have to look, but I don't think I did questions 10.
Just want to make sure we didn't need to do it.
Yeah, you got a 40 gig in size. Cool. So now you're ready to do the custom task 5. What are you doing, Tavon?
I'm doing task 5. It says on the next page, verify that VMFS is selected and click next on the name and device selection. Enter
Oh,
IM.
look on the task 5 notes.
I don't have the. I have the screenshot of.
You should be able to see it on your screen in Zoom.
Well, that's a tiny little screen for me to go on. Delete your shared last name. Data store. Or not done with lab 13. Oh, so you just want to delete it. Oh.
Okay, so I got 10 o'clock and I need everybody to check your data store section and to make sure that all you've got is your NFS library and your 3 shares. Is your partner finished and got their deletion done, except for Paul? So I know there's one group that still has to get caught up. Am I recording? Apparently. That's what it is, continue recording, but so Paul's got to finish his up, but that's fine. We'll let him do that when he gets in, gets back. Anybody else? There's Sean. I don't think Jeremiah ever did anything, so there's nothing for him to delete. He'll have to watch the video and let me know he gets this done. So concerned why data store 1 doesn't seem to exist anymore. Okay, so who's 6B? Is that Andrew?
Well, I'm on B6 and I'm B, so yeah, probably. So,
Okay, so why did you delete data store 1?
didn't you say that we had to delete it?
Not data store 1. You're only messing with stuff that had your last name on it. Let's see, does anything exist? Nope. That's interesting. Deleted the local hard disk, got a 6. Hopefully their ESX system's still there and it restarts in the future. Oh, well, we'll leave it there. We're not playing with data store 1 anyway. So VMFS just by itself is not too hard. Setting up the virtual volumes, that's a little bit different, but we don't have a lab for virtual volumes, just managing old school partitioning. And that's what we did, dealing with hard disk and old school partitioning of things. Instead of using NTFS, we use VMFS. So this here is a section over NFS. We've already talked about NFS. It's simply a folder that's shared off of a operating system, Linux, Windows, whatever. Preferably it's off of a Linux system. Some NAS systems, well, most NASs run Linux, and they share NFS or iSCSI or whatever. The QNAPs could share off with an NFS protocol if I wanted, but I'm only running iSCSI on the QNAP systems. We've already attached to it a NFS library, an export folder that I shared out that had the ISO images for CentOS and probably server, I don't know, 2016 or something out there, maybe 2008 server. Other ISOs were out there. And we've already talked about there's two versions of NFS that you can implement, version 3 and version 4.1. So the latest and greatest version is not always the best. There's a lot more complexity in setting it up. And the actual protocol itself has built-in multi-pathing that you have to configure with the 4.1 protocol. You can enable Kerberos authentication and try to get it integrated with Active Directory, which is pretty complicated. It also has its own built-in file locking directly into the 4.1 protocol. 3.1 is different. ESX manages the multi-pathing. It's only got one authentication type, which is root only. And it needs root access because file locking is done by the ESXi host. So root access is required for it to write the files for file locking capabilities. And the client keeps track of errors. Don't mix them. Don't try to use a 3.0 version and a 4.1 version. So if you set up one ESXi host and mounts using version 3 and your second ESXi host, you try to set up with version 4.1, you'll likely get an issue. They won't be able to know file locking. So they won't be able to track each other's who's accessing what file, and you can get a lot of data corruption if you try to mix the versions. Check out the capabilities of version 3. There's yes in every single section up here. Look at 4.1. It does not work with DRS and storage IO control. It does not work with Site Recovery Manager. Yes on the others, but the latest and greatest version doesn't support everything. So I suggest sticking with 3. When you're mounting an NFS share, this is a test question. There's at least 3 pieces of information you got to know. That's the server name or IP address, the folder that's shared out, and the name you're going to name the data store. You at least have to have those 3 pieces of information configured to attach an NFS share, at least with version 3. So data store name, the NFS server's host name or IP address, however you want to use it, and the folder. When we added our NFS library, we had to look on our IP sheet that I have in Canvas. and find the, I don't know if we used the IP address or host name. I think we used the IP address. It was like 60.8 or something weird. 1010 something. And then we had to put in /export because that's the folder I had shared out. And then we had to type in NFS library. That's just made up. The data store name, you make that up, but you should at least have an idea of what you're going to name stuff before you start down that path. So that's the 3 things that must be filled out before you can hit next on the dialog box. So that's the test question. What 3 things do you need at a minimum for connecting an NFS share? So the NFS server's name or IP address, the folder name, and the data store name. Pretty easy to find. You can at least see the question really easily as we go through. There's the 3 pieces of information that answers that test question. Data store name, folder name, server, and notice, whoops. Notice it shows either a domain name or an IP address as the option. If you're trying to use 4.1, you have to enable Active Directory. You also have to go into Active Directory itself and set up some user accounts in there, I believe, and enable Kerberos delegation and stand on your head and pray that Microsoft works. So I've never set this up because, well, version 4.1 supports less things, and there's a whole lot of work to try to get Kerberos and integrating with Active Directory and getting a user account where it delegates the Kerberos and allows Kerberos realm to extend into the VMware environment. So it's kind of complex. Here we get to the unmount option. Why is this so important? Because, as I said at the beginning of class, they used to just have the word delete there. And you're like sitting there, it's like, please let me be right-clicking on the right thing and not a VMFS data store. Because delete's unmounted if it was NFS, or destroyed if it was VMFS. And look, they're right side by side. Look how close they are. You could get your mouse off just a little bit, especially if you're remoting in with a remote PC. Sucked. So really great that that unmount is now listed, that you know that you're on a NFS, and unmounting is not going to destroy stuff. It's just going to disconnect it. You could easily reconnect and all your files will still be there. It's so simple, but that is so great that they now have it says unmount instead of delete. You think, how do we need to learn that? Because it's horrible in the past. That's why. So same thing with multipathing as with the VMFS data store. I'd recommend just using, not really setting up multipathing. You can, multipathing is basically most recently used, and you have a second adapter as a backup. So if the primary fails, there's another path for it to go down. That's as complex as the multipathing I'd recommend trying to set up in production. If you need faster speed, you're not really going to get it with multipathing. Multipathing is for fault tolerance. A fault happened, you've got another path to go down because one path is faulty. You need faster speed, get a faster NIC. That's expensive, but you got to upgrade everything. But that's your main path. Then we have a lab. We've already accessed NFS storage. So instead of doing this lab, I will show you something else that is on a test question. It's about the version 3 requiring root access. So version 3.0, this is probably likely the what you would do for setting up the NFS server. If you're having to set that up, or if the Unix admin is having to set that up, you're going to have to inform him that you don't need to block roots. By default, for security purposes, allowing roots permission to a shared folder on a Unix system is bad, because root has unlimited control. However, VMware requires it. So you need to have your Linux system, your NFS system, basically on the same network that your SAN is on, that's isolated by firewall or physically wired separately, so the internet can't hit it. So it can't be hacked. Because you have to leave root wide open. You can narrow stuff down by IP, but anybody can spoof an IP address and have full root access to it if it's allowed on the internet. So let me connect into here. And I have to remember where the configuration is. Where's the NFS configuration? So I think I did show you that there's an actual folder that I did make directory /export. I made that folder. I made the subfolders in there, like the ISO. Remember when we installed at the beginning sort of class where we installed CentOS? There's CentOS 8 in the list. There's the DOS 6.2 floppy disk images for Sean. Okay, I did. There's other students similar to Sean. He's not unique in the IT world. They've been out there for other students that have gone through the program. Sorry, Sean. There's other people like you. The Mr. Rogers. There's only one of you. Now there's lots of Seans in the world. Scary thought, isn't it? No. I think there's lots of Aarons in the world too. No, he's unique. He's that weird. I'm kidding. So don't get me fired, please. I'm joking. All right, so in the Etsy folder, I got a couple of NFS. There's NFS config, NFS mount. There should be like an NFS server. I don't know that. Let's look at these. Look at these files. What's going on in this file here? So there's this where I've got. Where do I have it configured? So there's sysconfig, Etsy sysconfig. So I'm gonna have to go into sysconfig directory. I'm seeing a couple environments up there at the top. So this file is not supposed to be modified directly. These are all using variables. So yeah, there's a lot of systems are wanting you to use a file called .local. So it says I need to go into sysconfig folder, and then there's NFS file. This is where I need to boot. Base. There we go. Number of threads, default is 4. Mount point, NFS secure. NFS version 3 support, yes. NFS version 4 support, no. So I did make that change in the configuration file. I went and researched how do I turn off NFS version 4 support, because I didn't want the accidental connection, since we've got 9 different groups here, and I didn't want one group to accidentally put 4.1 and one group try to connect version 3 and cause some type of data corruption. So on the server side, I told the server, do not accept version 4. So there's one thing I've done. That's not the test question, but that's just a hint if you're setting this up. The other thing I did, I don't think it's in here. I think there's a configuration, another file where it's actually configuring what folder is exported. This is obnoxiously long. And that's at the very bottom. So what file? Probably gonna have to Google it. Somebody Google it for me. The NFS export configuration file. I think it's called exports. I found it. Yep. Yep, I found it. So I was really creative, so I created a folder called exports because the configuration file is called exports. I'm like, hey, that makes sense. I just make a folder called exports because that's what I want to export in the export file. That's not confusing. What I had to do in here that's a test question is, that's not cool. What did I just do? Okay. So the export /export, that specifies what folder is going to be shared. I could have multiple lines. I could export multiple folders if I wanted to. The next part right there, the asterisk, that would be the list of IP addresses that are allowed to connect to this folder. I was lazy. Instead of typing out, 10.10.50 dot whatever, I just put an asterisk like that, let everything connect to it. This is on a separate network anyway. I hope the internet can't hit it. The internet actually probably could hit this. Yeah, this actually, well, maybe, I don't know. I think it's kind of dangerous, but we got a good firewall, so. And it's a non-routable address, so the internet probably can't get to it. It could be on a different network, separately wired, but it's protected by just using a private address instead of a publicly routable one. So a lot of the stuff up there was automatically there. File system ID 0. I didn't really know what that was. I just left it cross mount. I didn't know. Read RW. I think I did change that from RO to RW, saying that people could put stuff in there. RO means read only. So if anybody connected to it, they could not put files on there. But I did read write because I needed maybe at some point in time to throw new ISOs up there. And the point that I wanted to point out, the no root squash up there is normally not a part of the configuration. Root is normally squashed. What happens when you squash a bug? You ever squashed a fly? Or a spider? What does that mean? It's killed. It's not allowed to scare anybody anymore. So Brian was screaming because there was a spider in the bathroom. Somebody went and squashed it. Just picking on Brian. So no root squash means you can't squash the root account. The root account cannot be blocked. But by default, NFS blocks the root ID from accessing the share. And that's your test question is, does VMware support connecting to an NFS share using delegation? Delegation means that another user account is starting up the NFS server and root's being blocked. So no, it's not allowed. Root cannot be delegated. Dealing with security, most servers like web servers, NFS servers and stuff like that use something called delegation, meaning the service starts up as root, opens up a port under 1024 because only the system or root account, like the Windows system account or a Linux root account, can open a port below 1024. Once that's opened, the delegation happens, and before the server starts accepting clients, it does a switch user operation and switches over to a nobody account or something that has very limited privileges. And it's now, instead of running as root, it now has access to the port running as a very limited user. So the no root squash means don't allow the delegation to happen. Always run this as root. Always allow roots to connect. So that's required. VMware requires root to be allowed. So you have to greatly reduce security. And it's a test question because the default is to squash the root account. Then you have to go manually no squash it. Otherwise, you're not going to connect. You'll get errors connecting to NFS, and then you'll be calling tech support and VMware going, why can't I connect? I can see the server. I can connect to it on my Windows machine. Why can't my VMware server connect to it? Because you're probably got it set up with the default and you're blocking root. VMware only connects using root. And it doesn't even ask for password. NFS doesn't care about password. It mostly just cares about your IP address. If your IP address is allowed, which star means everything, then you can connect whatever valid accounts there with no password. And VMware's case is like, I'm connecting as root. Okay. You have full privileges. Do whatever you want. There's log files. Anytime it's being touched, it creates log files. That's what root's required to be able to create those files. So it knows what server's touching what, those files tell anybody else accessing it, what servers are touching what files in the system. So true or false? VMware supports the connecting to NFS server using delegation. False. Must require root. Cannot be delegated to another user. So it wasn't really hard. I just had to type in no root squash. That's pretty much it. It's like, share this folder, customize it. No underscore root underscore squash. And that's all I had to do. I actually used a tool called Yast, and this is SUSE Enterprise Linux. So it was a little blue screen, and I just went in there and said, this folder, share it. And then it gave me the options, and I just typed no root squash and hit OK. Later on, when VMware started supporting 4.1 is when I went into the configuration file and I put no on the 4.0 or the 4 version, and then restarted it. So thought it'd help you visually see the configuration file. So that's NFS. It's pretty simple. There's just a couple of quirks. Use version 3. Don't worry with multipathing. No root squash has to be configured. And then to connect to it, server name or IP address, the folder name that's shared out, and where you're going to name the data store. So not too terribly complicated. Try to use Windows, it'll continuously disconnect after a few days, and you'll have to restart the service on Windows and reconnect. I know that by personal experience. There's no way to fix it. It's Windows. And you have to figure out how to do the no root squash on Windows. Okay, virtual SAN. We already kind of talked about virtual SAN. I said it kind of sucks. It was used for small businesses or businesses that don't want to put an external SAN. So all of the ESXi hosts are packed with SSDs and platter disk, or all SSDs. And you have to use one of them for cache. And then the other SSDs are to offload that cache for longer term storage. And all of the data is basically striped or copied to 3 or more servers. It's a lot of wasted disk space. In this scenario up here, if each system had 128 gig Optane memory SSD in it, and they had a terabyte plattered hard drive in it, you'd have a total capacity of a terabyte. But you had to buy 3 Optane SSDs for caching purposes. You got to buy 3 terabyte drives in there. So you're wasting 66% of your total capacity. And plus you need 10 gig or faster Ethernet really to keep the stuff. So you spend a ton of money on network adapters and 10 gig Ethernet switches and stuff to sync all this. I'm like, why? What, that I don't understand how this is useful. It doesn't couple of examples. They have some cache that is running on SSDs and then stored to SSDs, or you have a hybrid disk group where you have some cache running on SSDs, and then the other stuff is dumped to cheaper plattered hard disk. So much wasted money. Look, 10 gig. 10 gig NIC's pretty much required for it to really to work. RAID controllers must be in like RAID 0 mode. You need some good chunk of RAM dedicated just also to help out the cache. There's so much money there. And it's so not efficient. Why would you want to spend that much money and then waste 60% of your capacity? And you can have up to 32 servers linked together. That'd be a whole lot of wasted capacity. Okay, well that's whatever vSAN. It sucks. I wouldn't do it unless you're just rich and want to do it just because it's there. Why is there a lab on it? We can't do that. Wait, what? That was 14. Why did they even want to create? No, we're not going to do a vSAN. No, it's dumb. Just no. I don't know why they're pushing that so hard. Our setup's a whole lot better. We got those shares out there. They're running on the QNAPs. We throw some files on it. It just works. We don't waste tons and tons of space. Plus, we don't have a mix of SSDs and plattered hard disks to set up a vSAN physically. We're not that rich to be able to do Lab 15. We don't even have 10 gig networks. We were going to, so we're outdated. Stop having drivers. Come on, the NICs were released in around 2004. Why did you stop making drivers for them? That annoys me. I'm a little bit like Sean. Not the old operating systems. I just want the old hardware to still work on the new computers. That's what I want. It's like, screw the old stuff, but I like old hardware. Just continue writing drivers for this stuff forever. I want my Windows 10 to still have the driver to work with my ISA video card from my 386 computer. Okay, that won't physically fit.
They don't.
I couldn't.
Card, the PCIe.
I couldn't get. I might be able to. Michael Goodman. I want warranty on the first car I ever owned. It's an '82 Mustang. I'm sure the engine's bad in it by now. They never take you off the calling list. And they won't offer you extended warranty on an '82 Mustang either. They'll hang up on you when you ask about it.
Those look like standard PCI adapters. There's a PCI.
I don't see it. I see PCI Express to PCI, but I don't. I've gone way off. Gone way off kilter.
Might find better with AGP adapter. They say good luck.
How to use an ISA card in a modern? Yeah, that's what I'm wanting. Can I use an old ISA card? I want. Hey, look at that. It is possible. That's what I want. I want to put my old video card from my 386 computer into that and have a driver for it that works in Windows and run Windows off my old. But they won't have drivers for it. So that's what I've got an annoyance with. I don't want old software. I want the new software to work with the ancient hardware. So at the end of class, we completed chapter 6. So now we know about storage. Another question about storage. If the SAN administrator adds new LUN, when will you learn about it? When would you learn about a new LUN that was created on the SAN? Only after you re-scan the storage manually. They may even mention stuff about you got dynamic discovery set up, and they add a new LUN. When are you going to discover it? Only when you do a rescan. There is no automated process or schedule. It has to be manually clicked. So anytime the NAS is a change is done on it, the administrator has to rescan for it to learn anything new. They like to throw that question in there because it kind of sounds like it should automatically do that, but it doesn't. It's an annoying manual process. If you had hundreds of servers, it's probably a PowerShell script that you'd have to write and tell it to send a command to rescan the adapter in storage to learn new stuff. The way you can do it, though, I think you can rescan and get one of them done. And instead of having to rescan the others, you can, the new system allows you to standard configure, actually right click. It's under host. If I had more than one host, there's a way that you should be able to connect the data store to other hosts once it's already configured on one. But we don't have multiple hosts added in, so I think context-wise it's not showing me the options because I don't have multiple hosts. But there is a way to do that. You could, I'm sure, do it scripted-wise too, instead of having to rescan everything. But that's the new automation they've added in. But the learning of the new LUNs, there's no amount of time that you can wait. Not even restarting the server will learn about new LUNs. You have to go tell it to rescan. So very annoying.
There may or may not be a new machine there.
Kind of like how talkative Jeremiah is. Very annoying. They're like, wait, he's always asleep. He never talks. He's not here, so we're making fun. Uh-oh, this is recorded. He's going to hear all of that, and I'm going to get fired because look at this YouTube video. Mr. Goodman made fun of me. I was offended.
Just throw it in Windows Movie Maker.
I thought just because he wasn't here, it was safe, but it's on YouTube now. Oh, well. Okay, so y'all got Cisco next?
Yep.
Entertaining.
Yeah.
We have some more entertaining stuff in this class. VMs and templates become really entertaining. Starts getting into cool stuff.